Hi, so on this little clip we're going to have a look at how to calculate the range, the sample variance and the standard deviation using Excel. These are just indications of sample variability, and the first one we're going to have a look at is range. So the range is the largest value minus the smallest value in a set of data. And we're looking at our set down the left hand side here. So the first thing we want to have a look at is calculate which is the maximum value. And we can use Excel to do that. We'll use the formulas. We can say equals max open bracket, select our data, close the bracket and press return, and we get 49. And similarly with the minimum value, we say equal to min, open the bracket, select the same set of data, close the bracket and press return, and we get 28. So we now know our maximum value is 49 and the minimum value is 28. So the range is the largest minus the smallest, so we type in range here and we calculate it using the cell functions in Excel. So we say equals the maximum minus the minimum. And that gives us 21, which is our range within our sample. So the next thing we want to look at is our sample variance. So the sample variance is a much more complicated formula. It's given by s squared. The variance is the summation of all the individual values of x minus x bar being the average or mean, squared, and then divided by n minus 1. So the first thing we're going to need is to calculate what x bar. So we'll just put x bar in there, and we're going to calculate that by, it's the sum divided by the number. So we need to calculate the sum of these values and the number of values. So to calculate the sum, we'll use the functions in Excel. We say equals sum, open bracket, and we select the area we want, the data, close the bracket, and that gives us 794. Similarly with the n, the number of values, we're going to use the count function. Select the data again and close the bracket, and that's 20. So the x bar is given by the sum divided by n. So we'll use again the formula. So we'll say equals the sum divided by the number of values. Press return. So now we want to calculate x minus x bar for each of our values in our data set. And we're going to put those values along this column here, and we calculate them using the Excel functions again. So in the first cell we put on equal to, and we need x, which is this value here, minus x bar, which is that value there. Now before we move on, we need to make this an absolute reference because we're going to use the same cell in all our calculations. So we do that by hitting function and F4. And we'll see that the reference changes slightly. So that will give us x minus x bar, and when we pull it down along, the values will reference the x bar all the way down. So next we want to square those values. For that, we locate into the cell and we say equals, and it's the value, and then we use the up arrow key, which is just over the 6 and 2, so we square it and we press return, and we can pull that value down along, that cell reference down along, and it will give us our values for x bar squared. And at the bottom then, we want to sum that, so say equals sum, select our values and close. So now that we've calculated the sum, we're going to move on to calculate our variance overall. So we type in variance here, and it's given by the formula, which would be the sum of the individual x minus x bar squared, and then divided by n minus 1. So it's equal to the sum divided by, I'm going to open a bracket here, n minus 1, close the bracket, and hit equal to, and we get 31.0. We can check this in Excel by using the Excel function. We'll say equals VAR for variance. Now we're given a number of options here. There's variance P, which is variance of a population, variance S. Now it's a sample we're looking at, so it's variance S, so we pick VAR.S. We open the bracket. I go back to our original set of data here, select that, close the bracket, and we get exactly the same value. So now that we've calculated the variance, the next and last thing we want to do is calculate the standard deviation. The sample standard deviation is given by the square root of the variance, as shown in the formula there. So we've already calculated the variance, so now we'll use that to calculate our S, our standard deviation. We put in here S equals, and then we move over and we'll get the square root, SQ QRT, open bracket, and we'll take our variance value up here, 31, and press return, and we get 5.564 basically. We can check that value in Excel using the Excel data analysis function. Let's say equals ST. Now we can see already we're getting options here, and the one we're interested in is the standard deviation of a sample, because that's what we calculated. So it's DEV S, open bracket, and we then need to go back to our original data, calculate from scratch, and we get the same value. So we've ended up with the same value through Excel and the value that we calculated piecewise. So that concludes in Excel our calculation of some of the indications of sample variability.